made with respect to responsible and sustainable growth, and certainly this is one of them. The Bay Beach development is one of them, and I can unequivocally say that it is a responsible development, and it's not based on my opinion, it's not based on hearsay, it's not based on speculation. It meets legislative policies and frameworks that have been laid out, and it is a responsible development, and I do not know why this council would ever consider turning its back on such a creative situation as the public-private partnership that it's before us. Now, we should be concerned about economic recovery, not preservationist attitudes right now. Right now, it's a responsible development. It meets a whole bunch of different objectives as laid out within specific policy framework, and I have no doubt that it will be a success as we move forward with the project. So I'm hoping that Council will respect that we have challenges within the town of Fort Erie that respect our opportunity to grow. This opportunity represents a growth opportunity. You cannot in good faith turn your back on a growth opportunity given the significant challenges that we have. And I'll tell you, they're significant from the perspective that I don't know of any other community like Fort Erie, given its unique geographic positioning, that has been subjected to such stringent public policy, PSW legislation, restriction of the urban boundary, all these policies that have considerably hampered our ability to grow our tax base. And for the same people that complain about overtaxation and user fees going up every year, this is part and parcel to it. When you talk about growing the tax base, you can either grow it industrially, residentially, or commercially. I'll tell you right now, we have no industrial properties in our inventory. There are no industrial properties. We have industrial lands that are unserviced, but how do you grow that tax base when they're not serviced?
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Your Worship. So at this point, I would love to, focus more on industrial growth rather than residential growth. But like I said, how do you come up with that, at last estimation, $20 million to service our industrial parks that has lost close to 50% or 300 acres of its industrial land? Normally you do it through DCs, development charges, and you could recoup costs that way. But to recoup close to $20 million, you're basically pricing yourself right out of the market, and no developer is going to pay that extraordinary amount, and then, you can't expect development or growth here in the town of Fort Erie. This is an opportunity to grow the residential tax base in a responsible manner. There's nothing that indicates at this point that it's irresponsible. And for anyone to use that terminology, that is an irresponsible development, they're basing it on hearsay, personal opinions, and speculation. I can say it's a responsible development because it's been thoroughly vetted and because the OMB has come down with a decision that says it meets every provincial policy requirement for responsible development. So I won't take up any more of your time, but thank you. And I'll open up the floor to questions.
Any members of the council wish to ask questions? No?
I'll say the same thing to you as I said to Ms. Lockwood, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Just to pick up on what you're saying, first of all, let me just say that you've introduced us, or at least the audience, more than likely, to a very complex issue. It's very complex, and I hope you would certainly agree with the fact that it is a very complex issue because of the
absolutely
of the issues that all seem to intertwine with one another. You had mentioned about the project, the Crystal Beach Gateway project, meeting the provincial policy statements.
Legislatively, yes.
Yes, legislatively, yes. If the project was to be altered to call it a 4-story unit condo, would it not also meet the provincial policies that are legislated?
I do not deal in speculation, Councillor. You could say
but it's probably fair to assume that
6 floors. You can use 30 floors. I don't know. What the OMB vetted was the information that was provided to them, and specifically the plans that were submitted. 12 stories, that footprint, those amenities, that was submitted, and that that's what was ruled on. So for me to talk about something that is flying in thin air, it's purely speculative on my point.
Well, I guess it was also speculative when you talked about developers that weren't going to come in and pay $20 million, as you had indicated.
No, I didn't say that. I said the tax base would have to shoulder that burden. In order to fully service our industrial park, you're going to, at last estimate, come up with close to $20 million for infrastructure to service those remaining parcels of industrial land. Now, the only way to recover that is usually through development charges. And you'd have to raise development charges to such an astronomical fee that it would put off development coming to the town of Fort Erie.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from anyone? Councillor Schiller.
Just to clarify for the public that could be watching this evening, Councillor or Mr. Annunziata, can you just tell us in the last term of council, the last 2 years, what your portfolio was?
I was the chair of corporate services.
And what is that?
Basically, the chair of corporate services oversees the budget portion of the town of Fort Erie. Anything that has to do with capital expenditures or capital or infrastructure projects, anything that has to do with cost to the town usually goes through a subcommittee of corporate services and then is revealed to the rest of the committee.
And can you estimate how much of your time was dedicated to that portfolio?
Quite a bit.
Reasonable enough to say more than an hour a day?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, in essence, my bottom line is that you do have some authority for what you speak.
I never claimed to be an authority on issues of planning. I've never claimed to be an authority on issues of budget development, but I would like to think that given the experience that I have with respect to being fiscally responsible with the public's money, yes, I do have some experience, and I understand that the challenge that this council is going to face. And again, there's only 3 avenues that you can take with respect to taxation, and that's industrial, commercial, and residential. And if you're taking such an impact on your industrial tax base, you have to make up the difference somewhere or be proactive in developing those industrial lands. I know we've been very proactive in the Bridgeburg Committee with respect to residential, but at this point, with no industrial inventory, the only thing left are legacy buildings, and there are some legacy buildings around town that are zoned industrial and house industry, but unfortunately to get in new industry in those buildings, it's very cost prohibitive because one, the building usually isn't conducive or needs retrofitting, remediation or upgrading that is borne by the person coming in, or the adjacent lands are fall under the specter of contamination and they have to be remediated. So you have industry that wants to come to the town of Fort Erie, but unfortunately given those 2 requirements, when they go to the bank to get financing to do the retrofits, do the upgrading those buildings, the door usually slams on their face because it's dealing with contamination, environmental issues that a lot of banks aren't familiar with. So there's some challenges here. So as hard as the EDTC works in creating the opportunity in bringing those developers to the town of Fort Erie, unfortunately legislatively, your hands are going to be tied. So when opportunities like this come along, and as long as they meet the legislative requirements and they're deemed responsible, given the challenges that we have, I don't think it's responsible to turn your back on this development, given our industrial problems, given our commercial base, and given our residential problems.
Thank you.
Anything further from anyone? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This concludes presentations and delegations. I'll call a 5-minute recess and allow those who are in the audience that want to chat with each other, please do so now. I'll ask you not to do so when we come back. As stated earlier, this is the time that we have agreed to allow members of council to speak their case regarding the decision that was made to go forward. As usual, we will go to the councillor whose ward is most affected by this, and that is Councillor Lubritz. I'll start with Councillor Lubritz, and I'll just go around the horn to Councillor Passero, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Through you to the gallery. During the recent Bay Beach election in Ward 5, anyway, Bay Beach was the major issue. The election was won because of Bay Beach. Not only did I tell everybody I was opposed to this development, I didn't want this development to happen. Last Monday, this council took one step towards that goal by amending report number CDS 07-11. I also requested that council receive independent outside legal counsel to give an unbiased legal opinion of what our options are regarding the Bay Beach development. Unfortunately, that request was denied. I was told that our in-house solicitor could provide us with all the legal advice necessary. I questioned whether or not she could provide us with unbiased opinion. During the week, I got an email that summarizes my opinion. Specifically, when a lawyer represents a corporation, the lawyer cannot also represent individual corporate officers, in this case council members, who may not agree with the corporation's position on a particular issue. Because the town solicitor cannot represent councilors who may not agree with the town's position on Bay Beach, these councilors made a decision without getting proper legal counsel. Last Wednesday night, we went into closed session for what I believed was a question and answer meeting. I understood that council was going to get answers from a list of questions that were submitted beforehand, and we were going to discuss possible legal options, not vote on them. I am discouraged with what happened on Wednesday night, and I'm hoping there is something that can be done about it. Last Monday, I asked for a financial breakdown of all the costs that the taxpayer would bore regarding this project. The people of this community deserve the right to know exactly how much this project is going to cost the taxpayers for all the upfront costs and all the future costs. These agreements are written so the developer is only obligated to pay a maximum amount for each community benefit. That means the taxpayer will pick up the bill for any costs that exceed this amount. And I am quite sure there will be cost overruns during the road construction and the new storm sewer water management. What exactly is the town's responsibilities? How many of us are going to be proud that we own the roof of an underground parking garage, which also serves as the entrance to the condominium building? We'll not only own it, but we'll have to maintain it, repair it, and insure it from now on. As councilors, we are here to govern. We're responsible for developing policies that will build a stronger and better community. Our goal should be to create partnerships with our citizens. We are not here to become partners with developers and condominium corporations. When this project is finished, Mr. Molinaro will leave this town with his profits. If we enter into this public-private partnership, our obligation should also end when the project is finished. This is not the case with this project. We will be paying forever on a building that we don't want. We all know that the older a building gets, the more it costs to maintain it. This project, in my opinion, is not in the best interest of the town of Fort Erie, and I urge this council to seek out other alternatives that we can all live with. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. There isn't anything that I can say this evening to change anybody's minds. I've been in this position for 7 years. I've heard the bloodletting and the fever-pitched tone on both sides, and I commend you both sides of the argument. This is a very, very tough issue. But to say the least, the process has evolved. I tried to act as a mediator early in the phase that I came on board. I tried to perpetuate the idea of a fundraiser early in my tenure as a councilor. I I tried to act as a mediator for the issue of the north side.